Hi, Josh here from King's Co Imperial, back for our last dumpling making segment before we get to the cooking, of course. This is going to be shou long bao, the moment many people have been waiting for. These are soup dumplings, which is a bit of a fad in New York City right now. Every Chinese restaurant, from the Sichuan places to the Cantonese places and everything in between, have their version of soup dumplings. They're remarkable. We love them. And we're going to show you how we do it here at King's Co Imperial. My expert dumpling maker, Catherine, is going to be joining me at the end to show you a really beautiful shou long bao dumpling. But I'm going to walk you through a little bit of the technique that's in your recipe packets. For this segment, you need to watch the pork long dumpling segment, because rather than start from scratch here, we're going to start with the pork dumpling filling and just add the soup. Okay, so you need to go back and watch the 5 minutes or 7 minutes of pork filling, and then you get to this point where you have your pork filling with its attendant seasonings: ginger, scallions, sesame oil, soy sauce, white pepper, etc., etc. Forgot to add the soy sauce last time. We're going to add a little soy sauce just to give it a little flavor. But again, these are basic recipes. Any of these can be riffed on. You can add seasonings or spices to your heart's content. If you want a spicy dumpling, you could add a little bit of hot pepper or cayenne or something like that. If you want a more fragrant dumpling, you could add cumin to it. If you're making a lamb dumpling, etc. These are basic recipes that are meant to be, it's meant to take some creative liberties with it. Anyway, so we have this would be a basic pork filling, good for pork pot stickers, pork long dumplings, pork shumai, whatever. And to get from here to shou long bao, we need the addition of soup. So that's what you paid good money to, or what you're not paying any money to see, but we're going to show you anyway. Okay, so we start for the soup with this. This is pork skin. Okay, this is like skin. This is like the derma. This is not pork fat. Okay, that's a different thing. Pork fat usually comes off the inside of the skin or in the meat itself. This is the actual skin. This is what you make chicharrones with. Different things. But it's readily available in the butcher shop. Maybe not in your grocery store. If you do buy it from a butcher, ask him to trim all the fat off. If it comes, sometimes it comes with a little fat cap on it. You can just take your cleaver or your chef's knife and run the skin down like that. Get rid of the fat. Use it for another application. All you really want here is the skin. If you were here taking one of our infamous dumpling classes, I would pass this around to show you how strong it is. It's really strong. This is a razor sharp cleaver, okay, and it's barely going to get through this. So what you need to do before you start working with this stuff is to soften it a little bit. Again, all these recipes are in the packet that you can download, but basically you want to take this, cut it up, like maybe strips, or you could even take the whole thing and just boil it in tap water for about an hour till it gets really soft enough to use. Once it's soft enough to use after that hour and you cooled it off a little bit, then you want to take it and cut it into even smaller pieces. So we're talking about, I don't know, not a fine dice, but like a small dice, as we would say in the culinary circles. So it doesn't have to be uniform. It's just, something like this to get as much surface area out of the skin as possible, so you can draw as much of the collagen and all that goodness out of the skin. So you got something like that, okay, for your skins once it's boiled for an hour. Now you take this skin, you put it back in a pot, cover it with cold water again. Okay, this is your second rendering, as they say. Add a little bit of chopped ginger, maybe like a tablespoon, because you're going to simmer this for about 4 to 5 hours, which is a long time. Okay, nobody said this was going to be easy or quick, but it is what it is. During that time, it's going to let off, I'll be honest with you, a smell that's not so amazing, which is why the ginger helps a little bit. You just give a little freshness to it. You're not going to season it at this point. We're just looking for that viscous, oily pork liquid that's so indicative of a great soup dumpling. Okay, so this is going to boil for 4 hours. Simmer, I would say, simmer, low simmer. You will need to add a little bit of water from time to time so it doesn't evaporate into nothing. That's fine, but you really want to draw as much of the collagen out. You can also skim it like you would skim a fresh stock if impurities start to form on the surface, depending on the cleanliness of your skin, etc. After that 4-hour period, in the recipe packets I described straining it through a strainer into a loaf pan. Fine. If you don't have a loaf pan, you can use a stainless steel bowl, something just to catch the liquid. And then you're going to take that and you're going to put it in the refrigerator. Again, it looks like kind of like jelly liquid in a loaf pan. Put that in the refrigerator, refrigerate it till it's cold, 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 like 24 hours. It can't just be room temperature. And when you're done with that process, you can turn it out and you get this. Okay, this is it. Like this is the stuff. Okay, if you could feel this, you would feel that this is less like Jello, okay, and more like a rubber ball. Like this is serious stuff. This is remarkable stuff. This is the reason I got into food, because you're taking A, B, and C and making Z. Okay, it's like making pasta. You take flour, water, eggs, and you can wind up with some beautiful fettuccine. That's what this is. This is pennies to make, but liquid gold. This is your soup. Okay, so once you have this, you want to chop this up really fine. Okay, you can run it. It's stiff enough, believe it or not, that you can run it on a Cuisinart on pulse, or you could run it through a grinder if you have a KitchenAid or something like that, or you can just take your handy dandy cleaver and just chop it up really fine, etc., etc. And when you're done with that, you get something that looks like this. I'll put a little on my cleaver and hold it up. It's just gelatin and pure and simple in its purest form with pork flavor. Okay? You're going to take 40% this, 60% this. We're eyeballing it. If you get a little more extra soup, it ain't going to be a big deal. Not enough soup, I think, is a bigger deal, but that's me. And then you just want to mix this together. And the thing about soup dumplings is, it's the viscosity of the soup. It's that mouthfeel. It's that slickness. That really defines a good soup dumpling. People have asked me if you can use chicken stock with gelatin. Yeah, probably. I would go for a fatty chicken stock, so it will give you a little bit of that viscosity. And I would also say use about 3 times the gelatin recommended on the package, so you get something that's really, really hard. So what happens is this soup permeates this pork filling, and then when it cooks, it melts, and you have your soup and your dumpling. I've seen it done a lot of ways. I've taken classes in Shanghai. I've cooked with Shanghainese chefs where this soup dumpling recipe supposedly originated. I've seen people add big pieces of fat on top of their soup dumpling. I've seen people add extraordinary amounts of fat to their filling to get soup dumplings. Maybe those are great techniques. In New York, this is the way the soup dumplings are made, with this gelatin and this pork. And, I'd venture to argue that New York soup dumplings are some of the best in the world. So there you go. Now we're going to form a soup dumpling. And for this, I'm going to rely a little bit on on an expert hand from my chef Catherine over there. So we're going to take our skins, okay, and again, tune into the skin episode if you want to learn how to make a skin. We're going to roll them out, and they need to be, this is where this technique is really important, because the center of this skin needs to be thicker than the outside. Otherwise, when you steam it and you try to lift that soup dumpling, it's just going to fall right down. So you can, if you really want to get granular with this, tune into our skin making episode. But basically, we're making we're going to make our soup dumplings this way. So you get your skin like this. You're going to take your butter knife, as we've used in previous classes, and you're going to shove that skin full of filling. tiny bit too much. This is kind of a small piece of skin. And you really want to get it into the center and press it right down. Okay? More filling than you think you're going to need, because really you don't want a dumpling that doesn't have enough filling and too much skin. That's sloppy, to say the least. All right, so a little bit of negative space in your skin. Smush it right down in the center. Make a little like, okay, if we were making a taco with our vegetable and our pork long dumplings, now we're making a taco boat or a taco bowl. So we're going to make a little taco bowl like that, okay? Put it down on the board. Right here, you got to show my. And now we're going to, with these 4 fingers, we're going to work our way all the way around the skin, pinching and folding, folding and pinching. And you can use your thumb to push the filling back in if it once starts to pop out. But we're just going to go all the way around the dumpling, folding and pinching. Moving the dumpling as you go. You can stretch the skin a little bit. It's plenty stretchable, malleable, pliable, whatever. And you're going to go all the way around. Till you get to the very end. And crimp it off at the top. That's a really hideous looking soup dumpling, but perfectly delicious. Catherine? Now we're going to show you how a real pro crimps her dumplings. Okay, Catherine, hit it. Catherine makes soup dumplings. Well, she doesn't anymore. She's graduated from that job, but she used to make them all day, every day. So she's real good at it. But Catherine can basically do everything in our restaurant. She cooks dinner for the staff. She expedites the line. She's basically our most valuable employee. But she can still make soup dumplings. So you see how she's really pressing it really well in there? You really want enough filling. And then she's going to fold and pinch, fold and pinch, fold and pinch, going all the way around the dumpling. See how she pushes it in with her thumb a little bit. And voila, soup dumpling.